Well, hello scrappers, welcome back to my channel. Mike here. Today we're going to start on processing all of these gold corner BGAs I've got. I got a big bag full of them over here. Now, quite a while back, I bought these from my friend Ken up in Canada. He had them for sale on his eBay store. And when he saw that I bought them, he says, "Hey Mike, did you just buy my gold corner BGAs?" I said, "Yeah, I did." And he said, "Well, let me throw a bunch of other stuff in the box." So that's how I got into these other projects he sent me with the material from Mount Baker Mining and Metals and his bench sweeps and the gold foils from his 150 pounds of ram sticks. I got involved in all that stuff. And I kind of forgot, hey, I've got all these gold corner BGAs I need to process. And these are for me. This is my project. You know, I'm not having to share this with Ken. He's already got some money out of this because I bought these from him. So I'm gonna have to shuck all these and start processing them. Now let's find out exactly how much we've got here first off. Okay, so I hope that's visible. Yeah. Let's see. Just short of 2 kilograms, or 4 pounds 3.5 ounces. Okay, so that's what we've got in gold corner BGAs before shucking. Because really, the vast bulk of the gold is just in the black blob on the top there. The rest of this, not so much. Now speaking of the rest of it, Ken sent me some extras here. 8 pounds, 8.8 ounces of extras here. He sent me a lot of the bottoms from gold corner BGAs, okay? And you know, every time I work with bottoms, I swear it's the last time I will ever work with them because they are a pain in the butt. I mean, they look like they've got good gold on them. Here, I'll zoom in on some of these and show you what I mean. That one's still got a little bit of a blob of a top on it. I'll pull that off. But you know, they look like they've got good gold on them. But really, it's very, very fine plating. Maybe the ends of a few bond wires stuck on there. But really, there's not much gold there. And it's really hard to get it out of these economically, you know, and without a whole lot of work that makes it not worth it. Because there's just so little gold there. And I'm going to have a bunch more of them after I shuck all these. So, I was just going to toss them because they're just not worth my effort. But, in the last video I did, and I'll put a link to that up here, where I tried processing these, a fellow commented recently, and I'll put your name in the caption because I'm sorry I forgot your name. But I've been thinking about it and said, hey, you know, his comment makes a lot of sense. He said just cut out the center gold section and process that. Got a lot less material to deal with, a lot less junk material, a lot less fiberglass, a lot less tin balls on the back to deal with. So I'm thinking I might try it. But I'm also thinking that might be a separate video because processing all these gold corner BGA tops is going to take me quite a while. So yeah. And then cutting all the bottoms like this is going to take me quite a while. So we'll probably do this in a separate video. So that's kind of like preview of upcoming events. In this video, zoom out, we're just going to process the tops on these. So I've got to shuck all these and get these tops off. Ugh, and I'm going to have some really sore fingers by the time I'm done. When some of these, they're going to fight me too. Some of them come right off. And others, they just want to fight you. You know? That one's fighting me. This one here is already broken in half. Okay, there's one. There's one. Yeah, I'm going to be at this for a while, and I'll have some really sore fingers. Unfortunately, it's hard to do this with gloves. Although I do have a nice pair of gardening gloves somewhere with really thin material on the fingers. I might be able to do it with them. Like these Intel chips are going to be the ones that fight me. I might have to get some pliers out and work with them. These Broadcom chips peel a lot easier, but boy, it is rough on the fingers. Okay, so I got to get all these peeled, and then we can further process them. So I'll be back when that's done, alright? And here's one that's partially peeled off already. Yeah, so I'll be back when they're all peeled and I've just got the top epoxy blobs which contain the bulk of the gold, and then we can go from there. So while I'm working on shucking these things, I'll answer a question some of you are probably thinking. It's like, hey Mike, why are you even bothering to separate them? Why don't you process them whole? Well, all those tin balls on the back is one reason. Tin and gold do not get along, and I want to get the tin away from the gold as best I can. And really, like I said, there's not a lot of gold in these bottom parts. There's going to be a lot of fiberglass fibers here. There's going to be the tin. There's going to be resin in here. All that's just in the way of getting the gold. And you can just, peel these things apart real easy, generally. Sometimes they'll fight you, like this one is. But you can peel them apart, get the top black epoxy blob fairly clean, process that, leave your problems behind, okay? So that's why I shuck them. Alright. Okay, I lied. Nowhere near done, but we're back anyway, because I wanted to show you something. I've come up with a better way to shuck these. My fingers get really sore pretty quickly doing this. So just trying to peel them apart like this. Really sharp putty knife. Peel back one corner. Get the putty knife in between the blob on top and the bottom. Get this over here where you can see it. So yeah, this has really sped things up a lot. Just, one corner. Well, it hasn't really sped things up by that much, but it is making my fingers a lot less sore, I just have to peel up one corner rather than peel the whole thing apart. So that helps a lot. Some of these, it's hard to even get one corner started. There we go. I guess it has sped things up a little bit, and certainly my hands are going to be a lot less sore at the end of this process. So, if you got a bunch of these to peel, this seems to work pretty well. And if you have found a way to do it that's even easier than this, leave me a comment. Let me know. I got a feeling this is not going to be the last time I am peeling gold corner BGAs in my life. I seem to do it fairly regularly. And that's got a metallic top on it. That one's a little different. We'll set that one aside. But yeah, if you know of a better way, let me know. Thanks in advance. We're getting there, slowly but surely. Only a few minutes work, this pile. Okay, got all those gold corner BGAs peeled. That took a couple of days. Basically, whenever I had a few free minutes, I'd come down and peel as many as I could before I had something else I had to do. Just left it out and worked on it when I could. So let's see what we have left. We started out with 1,916 grams of BGA chips. What have we got left out of that now that I've shucked them? 872 grams. So a little less than half the weight is the top blobs with almost all the gold in them. So, okay. And then what have I got left for the bottoms? The shiny bottoms that are always so annoying. Every time I work with these things, I swear it's going to be the last time I ever have anything to do with them. And remember, Ken sent me some extras. So, yeah. 1 kilogram, 286 grams, or 1,286 grams. Okay. So like I say, I always swear off these things. Every time I try to get the gold out of them, it never goes well. It's never worth the effort. People have sent me a few ideas to try. So I may set these aside and try working on them, okay? And see if I can find something that's workable. Because I'm sure I'm going to have more of these in the future. You know, you never pass up gold quarter BGAs when you get them. So they're too pretty to throw out. So, okay. So I'm going to start working on these. What I need to figure out though is how am I going to process these? Now I talked back in the video where Ken sent this stuff to me, and I'll put a link in the upper right to that if I haven't already. I talked in that video about possibly revisiting wet ashing, which I really didn't enjoy, but you know, I was new to gold recovery from e-waste back then, didn't really know what I was doing, and didn't have a fume hood. It might be worth trying again just to see if it's less trouble than actually incinerating, doing a gravity separation, and then yada yada yada. You know, so I might divide this up. Maybe I'll do something like a quarter or a third of them wet ashing, and the rest through my conventional method. Unless the wet ashing goes really, really well. Okay. All right. So let me weigh out about a quarter of these chips. I don't want to do too many at once, because I had a bad boil over, I remember, before. So I'll weigh out about a quarter of these chips, and maybe we'll try wet ashing them. Let's measure out about a quarter of these, roughly. So I'm thinking that's going to be about roughly 220 grams. And I didn't bother shucking all of these. Some of the smallest ones, of course I don't have a small one in my hands, I didn't bother shucking just because they're so difficult to deal with. So there are a few in here that still have their backs on them, or their bottoms. We'll see how they wet ash. I figured those really tiny ones just weren't. Here's one. Yeah, here's one of the really tiny ones that I didn't bother shucking. So hopefully that little bit of fiberglass isn't going to give us too much trouble. Let's get this up to 220 grams here. My phone will quit blowing up on me. I have an elderly mother in a nursing home, so whenever the phone rings I have to check it because things happen, but usually it's just spam. Okay, we'll go with 224 grams, and we'll see how that goes. I'll get set up to do some wet ashing. All right, let's get set up to wet ash some chips here. I'm going to put in a bigger than usual Pyrex dish in here to catch any boilovers. I'm going to put in one of my big 3-liter beakers to work in, so hopefully there'll be less chance of boilover. Here goes our 120 grams of gold quarter BGA tops. Starting to wonder if that's too much for one run. I guess we'll find out. Pardon the background noise. We got construction going on next door, and I got a pyrometallurgy experiment going on behind me, which needs to run for a while. I'll put a link to that video in the upper right because it'll probably come out before this one. You can check it out if you like. So let me get some acid on this and we'll get this party started. So I'm just covering these with a little bit of sulfuric acid. I just want to put enough in there to cover them. I'm using highly concentrated sulfuric acid drain opener, available pretty much anywhere here in the States that sells hardware stuff. So you want to glove up good, you want to be really careful, because this stuff is really bad, it's really corrosive, and the way this stuff works is sulfuric acid wants to be diluted in water. It doesn't want to be concentrated, okay? And it will steal water from anything it touches. And that's how it burns your skin, especially if it's hot. It will get on your skin and it will steal water from your skin and leave behind char, okay? And that's what we're going to do here. Now the tops of these gold quarter BGAs are made from plastic. And plastic is made up of hydrogen and oxygen and mostly carbon. So what this is going to do as this heats up I put some heat to it here. Not a crazy amount, but some heat. I don't want to have another nasty boil over like I did the last time I did this. So what this is going to do is, when it heats up, it's going to try and steal water out of that plastic. And the only way it can do that is to break it down at the molecular level. It's going to steal the hydrogen and oxygen atoms out of those plastic polymers in there and leave behind the carbon as a char, basically. This is going to turn all black and nasty. Get your last look at the BGA tops in there while you can, because once it starts cooking, it's going to turn all black and nasty and opaque from the carbon that's liberated. Kind of like, I don't know if you ever saw this experiment in high school in chemistry class, back when they actually let you do actual chemistry in school, where they put some sugar in a beaker and put some concentrated sulfuric acid on it and put it on a burner with some heat, and all of a sudden you'd get a snake of black carbon coming out of the beaker as the sulfuric acid attacked the sugar, stole the water out of it, and just left behind spongy porous carbon that would expand out of the beaker. So this is kind of basically what we're going to have going on here, except instead of sugar we got plastic in here that's going to be attacked by the acid. But I'm going to use a fair amount of acid in here so that hopefully we don't get that black carbon snake coming out, and hopefully we don't also get a boil over. So it's kind of a delicate balance to get the right amount of acid in there. So we'll see. I might not have enough. We'll see. Okay, I'm going to cover this up. I got the fume hood going. It's slowly starting to heat up. And we'll see what happens once it gets good and warm. Okay? Well, this has had maybe 10 minutes to start heating up. And I don't have it on super high heat, but we're starting to get some bubble in there. So there's a reaction going on. So I'm just going to let it continue to heat and see what happens. Oh, it's been a few more minutes, and look, we've got the carbon goo forming in there. So we've definitely got a reaction going on in there. Pretty decent one by the looks of it. We'll see if it starts growing up towards the top of the beaker like it's going to boil over. That's why I put it in my biggest and widest beaker. So hopefully I won't get a boil over out of this. Just let it keep cooking and see. Oh dear, it's been a few more minutes. Looks like I've successfully created the blob. Hopefully it doesn't get too much higher. I'm thinking I could put more sulfuric acid in to knock down the foam. You don't want to use water on this, for sure. But maybe pouring in more acid will knock down the foam if I need to. I'm just going to wait and see what develops. Okay, it's been a few minutes later and the foam has collapsed, and now we've got smoke in the beaker. Let me glove up here. Dump a little more acid in and see what happens. I don't know if I had enough in there to fully digest all those tops in there. This is probably sulfuric acid vapor here, which is be really bad for you if you were to breathe it. Put a little bit more of this in and see what, if anything, happens. Get one of my long stir rods that my buddy Jim sent me. I still feel stuff in there. It feels pretty thick and sludgy, so I'm going to put some more acid in. It doesn't feel like I'm stirring stuff up in a liquid. It feels pretty thick and sludgy. So a little more acid. Fortunately, this stuff is not terribly expensive. That feels a little more liquidy. Oh, that is some nasty stuff in there, though. Ooh. So we'll just let this continue to cook. See what comes of it. Well, it's been a little while longer, and really there's nothing much happening in there. Some more smoke. I even turned the heat up. I just want to make sure that the reaction goes to completion before I shut it down and let it cool off. I don't want to wind up with half dissolved BGA tops in there. I want them to be fully digested. So I'm going to let this run a while longer, even though there doesn't really seem to be much happening. I'll try stirring it again in a little bit and see what I can feel inside. But I'm just going to let it go for now. There's a lot of acid in there. It's really hot. Hopefully, it's doing the job. Oh, well, it's been a little while, and I was working on my other project, come back over and look, and the foam is reforming. So that's kind of interesting. Definitely something going on in there. Let me glove up, and I'll give it a stir and see what it feels like down in there. See if I still feel like there's big lumps in there, like the tops aren't getting digested. See if it feels like there's still any liquid in there, or if that's going away. Oh, the foam collapsed immediately when I started stirring it. I feel a few lumps in there, yeah. Ooh, that is nasty. Look at that. That is nasty. Look at that. Look at it smoking. So, yeah, there's not too many, but there's still a few lumps in there. So I'm gonna just let it continue to cook and see what happens. Like I said, I don't want to have partially cooked chips. Let's get this done. So I'm just gonna let it go. My main goal here is to see if this is quicker and easier than my usual method of incineration, crushing, gravity separation, and so on. So we'll see. Alright, this has been going for close to 2 hours now. The heat's pretty high on it. There doesn't seem to be any more foam forming. This feels really thick and slushy, but I really don't feel lumps in it. Not big ones anyway, maybe small lumps. Might be the dyes, the silicon dyes. I don't know. Very viscous, very thick. I put a lot of acid in it. I wonder if I should put a little more in. Just try and thin it out a little bit. Let's put a little bit more in, because it is very thick and viscous in there. It's very hard to stir. That's an improvement. Okay. Yeah, I still don't really feel any big lumps, so I'm thinking this is probably done if there's no big lumps in there. But I'm going to let it go for a while longer, maybe as much as another hour, then shut it down, let it cool off, and we'll deal with it after it's cooled off. Okay? It's been about another half hour while I've been working on other things. Let's see what's going on in here. Oh, it's gotten very thick and viscous again. But I really don't feel any kind of lumps in there. Getting less viscous as I stir it. I think it's done. I hope it's done. I'd hate to find a bunch of half-digested chips in there, but I think it's done. So I'm going to turn the heat off and just leave this to sit in here until it cools down. Maybe even till tomorrow. Then the question of how to deal with this acidic carbonaty mess and separate the gold that I know is in there from it. Well, I have an idea in that area. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump a bunch of chipped ice in here once it's cool, and let the ice dilute the acid, and the heat that will be produced will melt the ice. And then by the time the ice is melted, the acid will be diluted enough that I can dilute it with more water without worrying about having boil over or anything. You never want to add water to acid, but I'm thinking adding ice to it will work. And get this viscous sludge diluted with a lot of water, get the viscosity down, then the gold should settle to the bottom of the beaker, and I should be able to decant off the sludge. It may take a few rinses, we'll see. But this is wicked hot right now, so it's got to cool down, maybe even overnight. Since it's in the afternoon already, this is going to take hours to cool down. Alright, this stuff has sat overnight and cooled down. Ooh, nasty film on the inside of the beaker. So check this stuff out. It's spongy. It's like a thick pudding. Yeah. So somewhere in there is my gold. So what I need to do is, of course, I need to make this less viscous. So plus there's a lot of acid in there. I don't want to just dump water in. So we're going to dump some ice in. Yeah. Dump some ice in and doesn't that look yummy? Isn't like that, like just the best smoothie you can imagine. It's already getting less viscous. Alright, I'm going to let this sit so the ice can melt. And once it melts, I'll stir it really good. And I'll probably be able to add water to it then and thin it out even more. I'm thinking that once this stuff gets thinned out good, I can just let it sit for a bit. All the heavies, including the gold, will settle to the bottom. Ooh, it's getting warm. Yeah. Oh, it's getting warm from the ice going in there. I knew that was going to happen. That's why I didn't want to put water in it. Figured the ice would counteract the heat produced by water and acid mixing. But anyway, I figure once it thins out, the heavies will sink to the bottom. And I'll be able to decant off the nasty black liquid. And I'll probably have to give it at least several rinses until I get whatever's left in here good and clean. Alright, so we'll be back when the ice has melted and I can dilute this stuff good with some water. Alright, it's been a little bit. Looks like the ice has mostly melted in here. The viscosity's gone down a lot. There's still a lot of nasty sludgy feeling stuff in there, though. I'm going to add a fair amount of just tap water to this. I think we're okay now after the ice is melted. And see if I can get this stuff yeah, I feel something really stiff and sludgy down near the bottom. It's very, come up an inch or so off the bottom and it's pretty liquidy, but there's a lot of stuff on the bottom. Well, I guess I'll just have to wait until I decant off this liquid and see what's on the bottom, huh? So I will let this settle, decant it off, and see what's down there. Okay, this has had a chance to settle for a bit, so gonna pour off this black nasty goo, see what we got in the bottom. More black nasty goo is what we've got in the bottom. A whole bunch of it. Wow. Well, it certainly settled out of the water column. God, here's a lot of black char, it looks like. Huh. How am I going to deal with that, I wonder? That's a good question. Interesting. That's what I was feeling when I was stirring it. Well, we got rid of almost none of that, didn't we? Okay. Huh. Well, let me add more water to it. I'll stir it, and I will dump it off quicker. Hopefully, the gold and the heavies will settle. anything that comes over in the bucket I can recover later. But wow. Alright. Not working as well as I'd hoped. Let's add a little water. Give it some vigorous stirring. And hopefully the gold is going to settle out quickly. Yeah, the gold may be settling out quickly, but so is all this black char stuff too. What am I seeing in there? Fiberglass, I guess. Okay, I'll have to give some thought to how to deal with this crud. I don't know. It looks like it's mostly carbon, but yeah. I have limited time today, so I may just have to punt this till tomorrow or the next day and think about it. At least I think I got the worst of the acid out of it. I don't want to touch it bare-handed yet, but I think probably another rinse or two like that will get the pH down probably. I can always test it with pH paper. And how am I going to get rid of all that carbon? Okay, let me think about it. Do you begin to see why I'm not a fan of wet ashing? Trying it again after all these years by popular demand, but I am not a fan. Not a fan at all. So I don't know how well this is showing up. Well, you can see the gold right there. I can see it on the viewfinder. But I see gold scattered all through this stuff. All through it. It's not like settling to the bottom. It's stuck in this carbony stuff. And there's a lot of carbon here. It's, it's probably not just carbon. There's probably some fibers from fiberglass in here. And other stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if there's like some aluminum heat spreaders, maybe some copper heat spreaders in here. So, but yeah, the gold, there's a lot of gold here, but it's all scattered through this stuff. So separating it from this stuff is what I need to figure out how to do. And the first idea that comes to mind is get the old wearing blender out and put this stuff in the blender and see if I can chop this other stuff up fine enough, because it seems to be in pretty big chunks here, see? Chop it up fine enough that it will stay in the water column long enough, if I stir this up in water, that the gold will have a chance to separate to the bottom. This stuff will stay in the water column and I can pour it off. So that's my first thought. I might give that a try. See how that goes. Now your first inclination with this stuff might be to just hit it with aqua regia and dissolve the gold out of all that carbon. Problem with that is carbon is porous, and you'll never get all your pregnant aqua regia solution back out of the carbon. Another possibility would be to put this in a crucible with, say, a lot of borax and maybe a little sodium nitrate or potassium nitrate, burn off the carbon, get all of the gold into one button, pour it into a cone mold. But you know, if I was going to incinerate this stuff, I could incinerate it in the beginning and save the wet ashing. So we're going to try the blender and see where that gets me, because we're trying to do this without incineration. So if blender doesn't work, well, incineration's always a possibility. Okay, got the blender out. So I guess the first thing I need to do is get some water in here. and loosen this stuff up again so I can hopefully pour most of it into the blender. That went remarkably well. Get the rest of this crud out of here. See a few bits of copper heat spreaders like I was thinking. A few of those chips had internal copper heat spreaders. Get some of this stuff stuck to the bottom down here. Make sure get all the gold. A little bit of carbon still in there, but I don't see any gold, but the blender's getting full. I'll wash the rest of that out into the next batch. Let's see here. Ooh, it's thick. Let this run for a little while. See if it's going to chop up that carbon and fiberglass stuff into smaller pieces. Then I'll stop it, let it sit for a little bit. Hopefully the heavies will sink to the bottom and decant it off. May have to do this a few times. May not work at all. Another experiment. You know how it is with experiments. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Okay, we'll see what, if anything, that accomplished, okay? Let this sit a few seconds, and I'll pour the liquid off. I may let it sit more than a few seconds because it's pretty thick looking, and it may take a while for the gold to settle. So I'll be back when I'm ready to pour. Okay, that's just sat a little bit. So I'm only going to pour off about that much. A little more than half, maybe. I'm going to get the rest of the goo out of this beaker. Into here. A little more water. And we will blend it again for a while. Okay, ew. Oh, it looks a lot less thick and viscous this time. So I'll let this sit just a few seconds and then I'll try pouring it off. So I'm sure the gold will settle pretty quickly. Being as it's 19 times heavier than water, it's just, I was afraid that the stuff before was so viscous it was going to take its time to work its way down through that high viscosity liquid, even though it was much denser. So we'll pour some of this off. Again. Oh, this is making a heck of a mess on my bench. My freshly painted bench. Put some more water in. And we're going to do it again. Okay, and my plan here is to just keep this up until this liquid isn't black and opaque anymore and I can actually see what's going on in it. So this may take a little while. But on the other hand, this is pretty easy. Anybody with a blender can do this, as long as they don't mind messing up whatever bench they're working on. Okay, so I'll be back once I've got this stuff to a point where it looks like we can actually see what's going on in there. Well, that took a fair amount of rinsing, but I think we're down to it in there. I see copper, I see icy dye debris. I don't see a whole lot of gold, but it's probably on the bottom underneath the icy dye debris. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disassemble the blender, take the bottom part off, wash everything into a beaker, and we'll see what we've got then. All right. Okay, let's see if we can get this stuff into this smaller beaker here. Yeah. On, all of you, be hiding up there in the threads. Everybody into the pool. And all you stuff under the gasket too. Okay. Okay, I think I got it. Now there's a gasket in here I need to pull out and wash off. I gotta wash my fingers off now too. There's stuff sticking to them. Alright. So there's all the solids. It looks like a lot of silicon dye debris. I see some copper. I see some fiberglass. Let me see if I see any gold. Let me see if I can work it to the bottom there. The bottom corner down here. With a little agitation and take a peek. Oh yeah. There be gold in there. I'll try and get you a picture of that. But yeah, there's gold in there. Cool. So now all we gotta do is treat this stuff and get our gold out. Alright, can you see the layer of gold in there? It's there. We got it. Alright, now all I gotta do is treat this stuff to dissolve the gold. Okay, so I can see a lot of copper in this stuff, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe some silver in there, possibly some other base metals too. So the first thing I'm gonna do, first thing I'm gonna do is get the plume hood started. I'm gonna give it a little bit of nitric acid, and we'll see if we can dissolve those base metals out of there before we go to aqua regia. Just so we get a little bit cleaner gold in solution. I'm going to put a little heat to this, and we'll let it go. Should start seeing a reaction pretty soon. It warms up a little bit. Okay, it's been a few minutes. This has had a chance to warm up some. We got a little bit of fizzing going on in there. We got some orange fume production. So the base metals, probably mainly copper, maybe a little bit of silver, going into solution in there. So that's good. That's exactly what I want to see. I'll wait until this reaction goes to completion, and I'll decant off this liquid, and then we'll hit it with aqua regia then. Okay, this reaction has run its course. Nothing else going on. It's still a little warm, but I'm going to decant off this liquid here gently. Leave all the solids behind. You know what? I still see some copper in there, I think. So I think I'm going to put this back in the fume hood, hit it with a little distilled water and some more nitric acid. And give it another treatment. I want to get rid of that copper. Okay? Okay, so here goes some distilled water. Is that actually copper? It might not be. It might just be kind of copper-colored mesh. I don't know. Fiberglass mesh, maybe? I don't know. But we're going to give it another treatment anyway. I won't put a whole lot of nitric acid on it, just in case there's, no more base metal in there. I don't want to waste it. But we will give it another treatment. Can't get this stuff too clean before you hit it with aqua regia. Okay, so we'll let that react and see what happens. Well, really didn't get much of a reaction out of it this second time, although the liquid is discolored, so something must have happened. I never saw any fumes or any real fizzing, so I just turned the heat off. I'm gonna let it cool down a bit, then I'll decant this off, and we're on to aqua regia. Well, I would say from the color of the liquid, dissolve something out of here. Not sure what, but got something out. Alright. Get this back in the fume hood and we will hit it with some aqua regia. Okay, it's aqua regia time. Muriatic acid first. That should be plenty. And then some nitric acid next. I'm going to go with about 3 milliliters. That may be enough, that may be too much. We'll see. I can always add more. If it's too much, I can denox it. Put a little bit of low heat to it. Not too much. Let's see what happens. That gold should go into solution. Give it a little stir. And we'll see what happens when it warms up. That gold should go into solution without too much trouble. Okay, this really hasn't even had a chance to start warming up yet, and already we got some bubbling going on in there, so we got gold going into solution. Excellent. Yeah, it's cooking right along. Okay, now we got serious reaction going on and some brown-orange fumes forming, so yeah, good. It's just what we need. Okay, this is done. So I've got my usual saturated solution of sulfuric acid here for denoxing, just in case there's any extra nitric acid in there. Which, yes, there is some. Look at the foam, my goodness. I did put an extra like half a milliliter in off camera just to make sure we got everything dissolved in there. Alright. I'm calling that thoroughly denoxed. Gonna dilute it a little bit with some more distilled water. Just to increase its volume. Cool it. And any insoluble stuff in there should come out of solution. The sulfuric acid will have created some sulfuric acid as it neutralized the nitric acid. That's complicated, I know. Creates sulfuric as the sulfamic neutralizes the nitric, believe it or not. So any lead in there should fall out of solution as lead sulfate. So we're just going to let this cool down, and I'll get it filtered, and then we'll drop the gold. Just for the sake of completeness, and people say I don't do enough Stannis chloride tests. Well, I'm pretty sure there's gold dissolved in this stuff, but we'll do a little test too, just to be sure. And this is after diluting it now. This has already been diluted by at least 2 to 1, if not more. Got some fresh Stannis chloride solution here made just today because the other stuff is getting kind of old. Look at that. There we go. There we go. There's your proof, guys. We got gold in solution, and that is a pretty dark indication too. Went from purple to black pretty quick. Okay, I will get set up to filter this stuff, and then we can drop the gold. Alrighty, let's get this stuff filtered. I actually added a little extra water to this. I find that the gold drops better if the liquid is more dilute. I believe that brings the pH up some by further diluting the pregnant solution. And that just makes the gold want to come out of solution all the more. So, don't have a lot of liquid here, but I'm going to give it a vacuum filtration. Just because I've got other things to do, I need to do this morning, so this will be a lot quicker, and we'll get a nice clean filtrate, and then we can drop the gold. Okay, so this is going to take a little while. I'll be back once I've got all the liquid through and dumped the solids in here and rinsed all of the pregnant solution out of the solids in the filter. And then we'll be back in the fume hood to drop the gold with a little SMB. Okay, let me get the fume hood going. Got some super clean filtrate there. A freshly cleaned beaker. We should get some good clean gold out of this, I'm thinking. Keep the sulfur dioxide I'm about to produce in. Color's definitely lightened up. I'd say something's about to happen. I'll put a little bit more in just to speed things along. And then leave it at that. It's gone pale. It should go dark shortly. Oh yeah, it's darkening up. It's just taking its time today, but it's darkening up. Battery in the camera is about dead. Let me change it out, and I'll bet by the time I get back, that'll be a lot darker. Yep, it only took about 30 seconds to change out the camera battery, and look at the difference. That's what I thought. So we're just going to let that sit and see what comes out of it. Hopefully a fair amount of gold. Wow, is that a clean gold drop or what? Look at that. The liquid is crystal clear, not a trace of color to it. Those nitric acid boils really got the base metals out of there. There was no copper left in there. It's not colloidal, so I guess there wasn't a lot of tin left either. I am going to try and clean this up like I normally do. I'm going to decant off this liquid, and I will give the gold a couple of boils in distilled water. I may even boil it in hydrochloric acid just to make sure it's good and clean. And then we'll dry it out and weigh it up. You guys have seen all that before in my previous videos. Hey, if you're new here, watch some of my other videos. This video is getting long, so I'm going to cut that stuff out. I'll just meet you over at the scale when we'll weigh up the dry gold, okay? Okay guys, here's the moment of truth. Got the gold here cleaned up, dried out. Let me dump it into my dirty gold repository here. This gold has only come out of solution once, so it's not as clean as I would like. So all this gold in this thing needs to be refined a few more times before I make bars out of it. Okay? Here we go. Let's see how much we got. Only a little over half a gram. Now that is less than I was expecting. Out of about 220 grams of BGA tops. That is less than I was expecting by quite a bit. So either the BGAs I bought from Ken are not the greatest in the world, or something with the wet ashing process isn't working all that great. I don't know. It seemed to go pretty well except for being so messy. So I don't know where I could have lost any gold. I will have to investigate this further. I think I may wet ash some more chips in another video and carefully track where I could be losing any gold, because I would expect to get a lot more gold than this. On the other hand, I can't believe I've lost like 3/4 of my gold. That doesn't make sense either. A little bit, sure, but 3/4 of it? I was expecting to get somewhere around 2 grams of gold out of 220 grams of BGA tops. So something went awry somewhere. So yeah, gonna have to do some research on that. That's not near as much gold as I was hoping to get. On the other hand, it went pretty quick and easy. It was a little bit messy, but there wasn't the usual incineration, running through the ball mill, gravity separation, all that good stuff. That, you know, that stuff might take a day or two. So all this could have been done in pretty much one day using the wet ashing. So anyway, okay, I've got some work to do. I've got to do some investigating and figure out where I might be losing some gold, or whether it's just these particular chips I bought don't have a lot of gold in them. You know, that is a problem over time. Electronic suppliers have cut back on the amount of gold in things because gold has gotten a lot more expensive. So it's possible there just wasn't as much gold in these chips. They might have been newer than chips I've processed in the past. You know, I'll look at the date codes on the next batch I process. Anyway, that's all in the next video. Leave a comment if you have an idea where I'm losing gold. I'll check it out. Thanks in advance. So, thanks a lot for watching this video. Subscribe to see my future videos. Press the little bell icon YouTube wants you to press to be notified when new videos come out. Check out my second channel, ElectroGeek64. There's good stuff going on over there. If you're at all interested in electronics or retro computing, check it out. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching this one.